I want to call this meeting to order. It's a special call meeting of the Danville City Commission. Today is Tuesday, April the 5th. The hour is almost 4:01. We have three items on our agenda today. Item one is a resolution dealing with a grant approval for our regional airport. Item two is a resolution dealing with an emergency expenditure request for some utilities. And item three is the certificate of approval appeal for 305 West Main Street. So we will take that in that order. And so item one is resolution number 2022-04-05-01, airport grant application approval. Mr. Coffey.
Mayor, Commissioners, the resolution in front of you authorizes the signature on a grant application. The city is sponsoring on behalf of the airport to receive additional CARES money, COVID relief funds to offset operational expenses impacted by the restrictions of COVID. So this gives them access to money that's been designated for airport recovery.
Thank you, sir. Do I hear a motion to that effect?
I'll move for approval of Resolution 2022-04-0501.
Thank you, Commissioner Terry. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Cottle, thank you. We're in discussion. Quick question for Councilor Dexter. I believe it awaits your signature.
Yes, and I want to apologize. I've lost my voice today.
Where'd you go, New Orleans or what?
No. But yes, I will sign it electronically upon your passage of this resolution. I want just to remind the commission and also those from the airport board or others that are in attendance or maybe watching, we receive these grants. I have no independent authority to sign them on your behalf until you take this action today. So I just want to remind everyone of that. We've prepared it before you. I've reviewed everything. I'm prepared to sign it electronically as soon as you take your vote.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments?
Well, we probably ought to put into record what the amount is, shouldn't we?
94,000,
Okay.
I think it's 59,000.
59,000.
Yes.
You're picking up the rest.
What's that?
Yeah.
You're picking up the rest.
Oh, I got it covered.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, motion carries. Item two is resolution number 2022-04-05-02. This is an emergency expenditure request. Mr. Coffey, continue, please.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. So the utility, on the utility side, Marshall and staff got involved with the situation near Imperial Trailer Park where the city's sewer main crosses underneath one of their roadways. That's a private road. Once they identified it as a problem, as a concern, and as a backup, they did an investigation, found the line to be totally collapsed. It was extremely deep. It was very difficult, and the exact, we didn't have a lot of as-built drawings on it, so we really didn't know necessarily the profile of it, et cetera. And so as they got into it, they determined that the best approach was to go time and materials. They didn't necessarily know fully what they would get into when they started. They felt like it would be lower than this, significantly lower than this. The total is $64,255.41. It being deep and it being necessary to start immediately in that it was bypassing, the line was found to be totally collapsed under the road, under a concrete pipe, extremely deep. Our equipment is limited. We only have rubber tire backhoes, which has a limited depth of reach depth, and we do not have the equipment that these folks have used. We've done similar approaches with the Allen Company before. As we went through our local list of contractors, Todd Johnson was the only one with the equipment that was immediately, quote unquote, available to access the problem. Therefore, staff elected to proceed with them. When they got into it, it did involve some emergency bypass pumping to maintain service, which is very expensive. And it did take several not days, but more than a couple of weeks to make the repair. So staff is presenting you everything that we have received and negotiated for, including Marshall did a nice job with a summary. The invoices, various invoices with materials, et cetera, and their time of the company is documented, and staff is presenting this for your approval, and certainly I recommend approving it as presented.
What's the amount, sir?
$64,255.41.
Do I hear a motion for the resolution? Thank you, Commissioner Atkins, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Terry, thank you.
Would like
Discussion?
to caveat that we do have in the budget annually wastewater line repair. We have budgeted about $100,000 in that line item. This will be that work. Normally for SSOs, we do a small series of projects. This year, this one will be that majority of that work we do.
I noticed that Marshall says that we might benefit from buying a piece of equipment like Todd Johnson used, I guess. Is that cost-effective, you think?
No.
No?
Not to this size. We don't deploy it enough. What we will work towards and what we've talked about doing in the past is having a standing service contract for work like this with advertised rates and bid rates, unit price for equipment and labor. And we'll try to do that annually. We've been talking about that for a while, trying to develop, but we just don't have enough of in each individual work to really get a fair price from contractors. And so what we've continued to do is assess each one individually and try to drive the price down as low as we can. Unfortunately for this one, it was bypassing. It was a significant flow, and they had to make a decision.
I
And
guess
so,
it's good we don't need one.
Yeah.
well,
It's a good thing.
you can always use it, but it is, majority of our work is backhoe depth. So if we're going to invest in equipment, I'd probably recommend another backhoe rather than a 375, which is what they use.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, motion carries. Item 3 is the certificate of approval appeal. Before we get into this, I need to ask Counselor Dexter a question. What, if any, conflict of interest might I have in as much as the applicant used to rent from me, and the applicant now owns the building that they are in?
When did you sell the building to the applicant?
Mid-February?
Have you received all of your funds from that purchase?
Yes.
Do you carry a mortgage on the property or a note?
No.
So you've been paid in full for the transaction?
Yes.
Okay. That
But
being
it's not
said,
this building that we're talking about, right?
No, it's not. I just
Right.
want to make sure,
It's the building next to it, yeah.
right.
an adjacent building, but the
That's right.
same owner. If you do not stand to be in a position to gain financially from the presentation before you, which it does not appear to me that you do, based upon the facts you just relayed, including the large fact that the building you sold isn't the building in question.
Right.
I don't think there is any direct conflict of interest per our ethics ordinance. There is a provision that shows if there is an appearance that you could provide preferential treatment to an individual, then that could be a possibility that you may recuse yourself. However, that could come up in a host of circumstances before this body. So I put the question back on you. Do you think you can hear the evidence in an impartial manner without showing preferential treatment based upon your past dealings with the applicant?
Sure.
With that being said, I don't perceive there being an ethical conflict that would prevent you from presiding at the meeting today.
Thank you. Appreciate the clarification. Also would like to, while I've got your attention, want to lay out the flow of this agenda item. Want to know exactly how this is to proceed. What I'm wanting to avoid is a similar situation as we had a month ago. No, I'm going to let you do that, sir.
I was anxiously waiting, Mayor. Yeah, I was too. So this is the procedure and the overview. And again, I apologize for my voice. It does not hurt in case anybody was concerned. I know you've all been really concerned.
Yeah,
but
we
it doesn't hurt.
That bothered me all day.
My volume
We're
is just
stricken with concern
So,
up here.
with that being said, there are questions of law and fact before you. And in this type of hearing, it is considered de novo, meaning you hear it afresh for the first time. So it is like the applicant is presenting his presentation to you for the very first time. He will be allowed to, or she will be allowed to make a presentation to get the facts in front of you. After that presentation is made, we will then consult the design guidelines, and you will then make a decision based upon those design guidelines whether or not the information presented to you, in fact, meets them or does not meet them. We are not at the interpretive stage where we have to rehash what happened at the Architectural Heritage Board. Since this is a de novo hearing, you can hear it for the first time. We can talk about any of those other things, but it really has no bearing before you or not. So we will let bygones be bygones and hear it for the first time afresh today.
So the applicant makes their appeal, and then we will consult the ordinances or the
Design guidelines.
design guidelines. Is there a point where the AHB, Architectural Heritage Board, presents their information?
After the presentation by the applicant, if anyone wishes to speak for or against the application, that would be the proper time to do so before you consult the design guidelines.
So anyone to speak against would be anyone in the audience,
Correct.
not associated with the AHB?
It
Or could be?
Could be.
Okay, just one clarification.
Yeah. However, we do caution, in order for the board itself cannot speak. So the chairperson, for instance, could speak on behalf of the board, but an individual member could not speak on behalf of the board. They could speak individually, but not with the authority of the DAHB, if you can appreciate that nuance.
Very well. Ms. Cacciatore? Mr. Cacciatore?
Close enough, Mike.
We'd rather her, but that's okay.
Thank you all for letting me come here and allow me to be heard. I've got a few documents I'd like to just give you all, and I'll walk through them with you.
Let me see. Okay.
Yeah, I need one. She needs one. Here, Bo. No. Yeah, thank you.
As you can see on page 1 is the proposed signage for the new restaurant that we're building in the process of. Obviously, we're not going to touch on anything, as Mr. Dexter said. If you go to the second page, you'll see Article 7, Section 4-177. It's the Historical District Ordinance. You'll see the highlighted section, if you want to read that and review that. If you'd like, I can read it for you. If the print's too small, I know I need glasses.
What are you inferring, sir?
Yes, I know. I think
All
I'm
right.
offended.
It's recognized that the commercial signage is and always has been vital to the character and livelihood of historic districts and their merchants. It is recognized that poorly designed and haphazard sign placement can only destroy the atmosphere of historic districts. It also can spoil the beauty and the character. The sign that we're looking to put up here is going where the existing signage was on the Citizens Bank. And if you go over to the guidelines on the third page, which is the Historical District Guidelines, page 94, You'll see the highlighted section there, which I gave you all my copies. So I can't read that one to you, but I did highlight it for you.
And it's a little bigger print. so
It's a
we
little
can read
bigger print. Mike, can you read it? Because I don't have it in front of me.
it. I'll be glad to. sir.
Thank you.
The location of a sign also has direct impact on how it's interpreted as an architectural feature. Signs that are inappropriately located can overwhelm a building or obscure or cause harm to character-defining features and materials. Going on down, locating signs in areas that were historically used as signage provide the most appropriate options for new signage as it falls within the context of the area's retail history. The following pages outline common areas that are historically appropriate.
So with that being said, it's my understanding that with this new signage, we do fall under the guidelines as spelled out on page 94 in the Danville Historic Guidelines. If you have any questions as to mounting, I do have, that was addressed with the board, and if you have questions, I can touch on that. But nothing on that building will be defaced, and let's just say the company goes defunct, our sign can and will be removed, and the building will be just as it is now.
And sir, for the record, would you mind describing what the sign is made of and where it will exactly be located? for the
Okay,
record?
so for the record, the sign is a thin sheet metal. It'll be located right where the existing sign is now, but it will be sitting on the ledge, so the ledge will support it, the lip that comes out, and it will be affixed using existing mortar holes and these tapcons with this drill bit, which you won't even see. And there'll be no more than 24 of them, no less than 18 of them. That's according to Mark at USA Signs.
And I think if I read correctly, and you'll correct me, I'm sure if I'm wrong, but you're going to be using existing holes?
Yes, Mark from USA Sign templated that out already. And I don't believe, you can look back at the minutes, the pushback from the prior meeting was that our sign was inappropriate. But in digging in further to the guidelines, I don't see how it is inappropriate.
Okay. Anything else you would like to offer?
No, just, you know, I love the city of Danville, as you all know, and I thank you all for letting me come out here and give this appeal. And, you know, we've got some new young business leaders that are legging up in this community, and we're grateful for all the help that you can give us.
Any questions for Mr. Cacciatore?
I think I'll wait till we hear HB or whoever.
That's fine. I believe I understand the sequence, Counselor. We are now to consult the guidelines.
No, you can take any, if you want to take any testimony from those in the audience, either for or against the sign, that would be the time to do so.
And then we'll get into the.
Correct.
Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak as an individual? As I don't believe the chairperson, Tom, you chairman? Then you can speak on behalf of AHB if you choose to do so. Okay. Anyone? All right, seeing none, we will get into the guidelines section. Commissioner Cottle, you had some thoughts or questions or concerns?
Well, you know, I read the guidelines. I think that AHB made the call that they had to make in order to be consistent with whoever comes in. But, you know, that's where we come in, is to handle some of these more unique situations. And the thing that struck me, and I went down there and looked at that building for a good long time, and was checking the sign placement that you all have picked out. And it's kind of, if not there, where? Because of those columns, if you put a sign on the fascia above the door, they're going to be quite a bit be hidden by the columns. You put it on the windows, quite a bit are going to be hidden by the columns. So, like I say, I'm not sure if you don't put it where you'd have planned, where would you put it to be effective? So that's a question I have. I don't know if I have any answer to it, but
And that's what our designers had said too.
That was kind of my question too, was there any guidance given as to where you could?
The guidance that was given, and again, we can refer back to the minutes, but I'm paraphrasing here, that we should get a sign and maybe hang it from fishing line in front of the columns.
Anyone?
I would like to point the commission to the staff report that was in the underlying record that made certain findings of fact that, ultimately your decision needs to be, is the sign compatible with the design guidelines or not? And there is sufficient detail if you flip to the last page of the staff report, found in maybe 6 or 8, 10 bullet points that could either support your decision either for or against it, but should be based upon those design guidelines. The ones that come into play here were cited in the report to consider masonry, which it sounds like there's not going to, based upon the testimony that's been given, there would be no damage to the masonry elements of the building. So I think that section is not burdened by the applicant. And then the next notations were made on signage, and the rest of them have to do with that. So you can look at those bullet points that are found on the last page regarding signage, and we can either discuss them or you can make a motion based upon those. And if you're ready to debate whether it is appropriate or not, then I think, Mayor, it would be appropriate for you to seek a motion at this time.
Will do. Is there a motion someone would like to make? And if nothing else, a motion and a second just to have discussion.
And there's still no one present from the staff who wants to make comments about the presentation that they presented to us?
Well, staff won't make any presentations on it. Those in attendance could.
Well, I was referring to the chairperson, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
to get us off center, I will make a motion that we approve the appeal. Is that how I would word that?
You would make a motion to approve the sign as compatible based upon whatever design guidelines you think make it compatible.
Thank you, Stephen, what you said.
Thank you, Commissioner Cottle. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
So as part of that motion, Commissioner Cotter, do you want to point to any of those guidelines that you think it meets?
Apparently, it conforms to the, the size limits. There's not going to be any significant damage to the masonry. It's an allowable type. Architecture, I think, is compatible. Really, it seemed like the thing that hung up the AHB, and I understand, is the obscuring a historic name. And that, while that is true, I don't know how else it could be done, so.
If you want to use specifically, and I'm listening and trying to
Yes, sir.
form a recommendation for you based
Yeah.
on what language I hear.
Right.
Under on page 1 of the applicable design guidelines, just under 6.22, new signage,
Okay,
the design, you're selecting a design that reflects this sense of permanence, but most importantly, you're employing a design that is compatible with the architectural character of the building, and that it is clear from the facade view. It could be said that the architect's intention was for that to be the sign location, and to put a sign somewhere affixed to the column was not the architect's intention, and therefore the sign, so long as that this sign does not destroy the existing sign, and the existing sign can be removed without any chemical treatment or whatnot, meaning he's not painting the masonry. So he's affixing a sign over an existing sign that can be restored upon his dissolution. It is the location where the architect intended new signs to be, so I would probably lean heavily on that section. If, as I hear you describe
Are
your
you
opinion.
in section B there?
It's on the first
you in
page,
section
and it's 6.22. It's the most important thing is employing a design. Anything you do in the historic district should employ a design consistent with the architectural character of the building. And I think what I hear you saying is that you're interpreting that sign to be consistent with the architectural integrity of the building, meaning that's where the architect, where else would you put the sign if not there?
yes.
Right. So I would lean heavily on that.
Makes sense.
And following that same path, also under new signage, in that section 6.2.2, section B, embrace traditional signage locations such as signboards, storefront windows, and projecting and pendant signs. And then there was another, install signs so they do not obstruct character-defining features, so that's kind of what the argument here is. But also so that they can be removed at a later date without damage to historical materials.
Right.
That's kind of where I went. Attach the signage through mortar joints, which in this case, there are already existing holes there, or materials such as wood that are easily repairable. And so my other question is, this material and the attachment screws that are going to be used, are any of those subject to rust?
No. Everything is, I believe all the what they call tapcons, they're all powder coated, so
Okay.
they will not rust. And the sign, to my understanding, is right around 100 pounds, so there's no safety issues or anything. And, we have a really good plan in place to affix it to the building so that no damage is done, and we can utilize that building and have a beautiful restaurant downtown.
Was there any discussion about how to put signage on this building once this is in place to sort of identify the name, the original name of the building someplace on the entranceway, on the side of the entranceway, or anything like that? Any kind of small signage that would still identify the name of this historical place?
If it pleases everybody, I am happy, out of my own pocket, to have a beautiful placard made that says the Citizens Bank Building and affix it, kind of similar to like what's around the corner on Mike's building, because there is no building placard on the building. But I'm happy to pay for that and do that.
A bronze placard on one of your
Whatever you all want me to
side-
do.
Yeah. Small, 8.5 by 11
That-
style.
I'm fine with
bronze.
that.
Oh, is the night drop still there?
No, but the alarm is. You want me to turn it on at 1 in the morning?
Yeah. Wonder what happened to that.
I don't know, so that building is actually 3 different buildings. As we've gotten into this extensive renovation, we found out a lot about that building.
That night drop, though, that was a big piece of bronze.
Yeah, and then
And
we
that identified Citizens Bank.
yeah, that's not there anymore. Somebody probably took it and hocked it for metal.
I think I'm actually who has all the stuff, like the gate, and everything. Mike Curtis used to own the building. I think he's got a lot of
vault still in there?
We actually, we have kept as much of the integrity of the bank as we can. We are refinishing the entire vault. It's actually going to be a private dining area. And so we're doing as much as we can to really, I think you all know us and what we've been doing at downtown Danville, and we're doing it the right way.
For a fee, can we lock somebody in there?
Yes. Depending on who it is, depends on the fee.
The other thing, I was trying to find in the summary, you said that AHB recommended like stringing a sign up.
The recommendation that I received from the board in the discussion roughly a month ago was that maybe we could hang a sign halfway down the columns from some fishing line. And, I hired designers to do this stuff. It's not my profession. It's not what I do. I hire a company that does all this for me. And we circled back because I didn't want to go this route. But honestly, in looking at the building, and I think most of you all are in agreement with me, there's really no other place to put proper signage on the building. I did research other avenues and tried, but we just went down a rabbit hole.
It just seems,
Trying to figure out different,
Come up to the microphone. Thank you.
ways to put different signs maybe from the roof and hang over, so nothing touched, and it's just nothing worked.
that just seems sort of like a banner to me. That seems very temporary in nature, which is one of the things we're trying to avoid, so.
There's also additional signage that you're going to put on the windows at the street level?
Those COAs have just been approved. That's just some lettering in the glass, basically store hours and things like that.
Okay.
Just street level stuff, but those COAs have been approved already.
Stephen, could that be a condition of our vote to approve this, that we have some type of a plaque attached to identify the historical name and founder of this building?
I think if the applicant has agreed to that, certainly, but what I would be unsure of, though, I think that plaque itself would require a COA.
Yeah, and you're gonna have to
Well,
drill
if
in
we
the
can-
building to do it.
If I may, if we could just avoid to go back down that same path we just went down a month ago, just have the historical board design a plaque and I'll pay for it.
Can I offer an amendment maybe? If you can locate that night deposit seal,
Or something?
then that identifies Citizens National Bank.
I'm happy to try, but I think it's going to be, that'll be something they're better at than me. But I'll put them on it hard.
I
Just a
can
thought.
ask him, I will ask him, he comes in the restaurant every now and then, and he actually photocopied me a bunch of photos and that $20 bill. I was talking about the other day with Citizens National, and he said he could get me one, an actual one, so we could hang that on the wall.
Even in addition to that, Mike, I'd still like the placard on the building. I think it would,
Yeah.
I'm all about downtown Danville, and I think that helps.
Well, I think it's worthy to still pay homage to the
100%.
original
Absolutely.
building and what it holds. And, if everyone might remember, there were some kind of weird awnings on that building for a long time that were not very attractive.
No.
So this is much more attractive than that. And also, I think everybody has kind of had a love of this building. Anybody that's from here has had a love of it, and I've never had the opportunity to go in. And I've always said it would be really cool to have a restaurant in there, and if the vault is still there, to have a special seating area. I appreciate your all's work that you've done to, in downtown and
Thank you.
in this county overall.
So let me go back to this plaque. Because that is going to require the drilling of 4 holes to mount it. And
I would say this, those types of applications have to originate at the DAHB. This board doesn't have independent authority to approve it. I don't know, without consultation with staff, if that can be done administratively. Is that the type of sign that could be that could be possibly approved in-house without the requirements of a hearing or participation in a hearing. So what I would recommend is that your application today, before you either be voted in the affirmative or denied on its own, and I think upon the word of the applicant, that avenues will be explored with staff at the DAHB to pay homage in some way to the existing, the original purpose of the building.
And I can go a little bit further here, just to, show that my best foot is forward, as much as you know already. But I will have my design team design something, give it to the architectural board. They can go from there, comment, review, do whatever they want, also at my expense.
Or if we can track down something
That would be
in
great.
existence.
That would be great.
So I'm just looking at the staff recommendation here. It does say that the sign should be viewed as a historic nameplate, maintain, preserve, and repair historic name plaques in accordance with applicable material guidelines. However, it also says, if approved, mitigation to ensure that no damage occurs to the original sign must be employed. These mitigation measures should include, upon business vacating the building, the sign must be immediately removed and all holes repaired to industry standards. So I think that's really what we're looking for, and the applicant has agreed to that, and that would be part of this in writing.
There aren't perceived conditions listed on a certificate of appropriateness, but I think the record can accurately reflect your desire to do that. And for all practical purposes, if the enterprise there were dissolved at some later point in time and sold, a new business is going to want to have a new
Right.
sign at that point, so it would be dealt with at that time. But this would allow, if the record were developed, that you said it should be preserved in a way that can be removed upon their exit, it would give staff authority to remove it if it weren't moved voluntarily.
I think also there are areas above the door, and the original doors are there in the building, by the way. They're really beautiful. That you can put up the placard without going into any concrete. I think there's an area there above the window that is like metal. So that might be a thought, maybe make it bigger. And by all means, bigger the better, for a placard that says Citizens National Bank, and, where it doesn't have to go into the actual concrete itself, mortar.
Are there, excuse me one second, Ms. Lester, is there a place on the certificate itself to apply conditions? There is, okay. Then, with that being said, if it's the desire of the commission to approve the certificate of appropriateness, then that particular element of removal upon exit of the building could be identified.
And also, can we add, as many existing holes to be utilized as possible, or something along those lines? Additional,
Sure.
Drilling
Since the
minimal
testimony,
or
since the
something.
testimony is reflected that they intend to use only existing holes, I think that could be a agreeable condition.
They've templated that out already, so they can pre-drill the sign once we fabricate it.
Okay, great.
Any other questions or comments?
I'm going to call for the question then, right?
Question has been called. All in favor of the motion for appeal, say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Appeal granted.
Thank you all very much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing that concludes our agenda, take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Cottle, Commissioner Terry, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. We are adjourned.